Welcome back to the deep dive. So, if you've been watching these autonomous systems evolve, I mean, they're everywhere now, right?
Oh, absolutely.
They're recommending what you watch, managing supply chains. Some are even involved in things like credit scoring. And it makes you wonder, when one of these things makes a bad call, who's actually on the hook? Where does the responsibility land?
That is, I think, the central puzzle we're all grappling with. AI systems have definitely moved past just crunching numbers. They're now, visible agents in our lives. They generate, they recommend, they even execute judgments.
And when a consequence is bad, a wrong medical diagnosis from an AI or a big system failure, the first human reaction seems to be,
Point the finger.
yeah, exactly, blame the algorithm.
It's immediate.
It's such a clean narrative, isn't it? The blame just shifts so easily away from the user, away from the developers, and onto this abstract, non-human thing.
Well, the sources we've been looking at for this, particularly one called the No.11 thesis, it really pushes back on that narrative.
How so?
It argues that the real issue isn't that guilt vanishes or that the AI somehow absorbs it.
Yep.
The point is that the guilt loses its visibility. It doesn't disappear. It relocates.
Relocates. That's a really interesting word for it. So it's not gone. It's just hiding somewhere else.
Exactly. The thesis describes AI as becoming a kind of silent sedimentation field.
Like silt at the bottom of a lake.
Precisely. All that ethical weight, all the difficult responsibility that we as humans didn't want to carry, it just settles there, out of sight. We haven't actually solved anything. We've just gotten very, very good at moving the burden somewhere we don't have to look at it.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
that completely reframes the problem. It's not about morality. It's more like structural physics.
It is.
And I guess to understand that relocation, we have to use the framework from these sources. They call it reflective humanism, or RH.
Right. It's a lens that focuses less on fixed points, like good or bad, and more on, on movement,
Like that.
on feedback loops, and this idea of continuous questioning.
So that's our mission today then.
Yeah.
To follow the trail of this relocating guilt.
Exactly, to map out its new geometry.
Okay, so let's start with the person on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
The user, or what the sources call the learner. What's the first hint that this whole process is happening?
It often starts as just a feeling, a kind of vague discomfort.
You're talking about the sense you get when you have to accept a decision that you feel like you had no part in making.
Yes. Maybe it's an automated work schedule that's technically optimal, but just feels completely dehumanizing. It's efficient, sure, the data says it works.
But your gut is screaming that something is wrong.
Right. But you comply anyway, because how do you argue with optimal? That moment, that's what the sources call the suspension of responsibility.
And that suspension, that's the critical event.
It's the starting point. And what follows is, well, it's not what you'd expect. You'd think sidestepping human agency on a mass scale would lead to chaos, to some kind of breakdown.
A big, messy explosion of things going wrong.
But the finding is the opposite. Madness, it says, does not explode as chaos.
So what does it do?
It normalizes. It just spreads silently across society as a transparent structure.
A transparent structure.
Yeah, and this is where we get to a really key concept, the rationality of absence. It's the moment we start to recognize the lack of human ethical judgment as a coherent, even acceptable reality.
That's deeply unsettling. We're building a world structured around the deliberate absence of someone taking responsibility.
We are, and for you as the learner trying to navigate this, just recognizing that structure is the first step toward getting some control back. That feeling of being overwhelmed. It might just be your subconscious pushing back against a system that has already normalized this absence of care.
So the goal isn't to fight the machine itself.
No.
It's to see the invisible structure and find a way to re-engage with the ethical part of the process.
Re-engagement is everything, because if you can't see the structure, you can't choose how you move within it.
Okay, hold on. I want to circle back to that word you used, madness. The thesis calls this normalization madness. That sounds a little extreme, doesn't it? I mean, it just sounds like cold, efficient bureaucracy, maybe.
It does, but the word is being used in a very specific structural sense, not an emotional one.
Okay.
The thesis defines it as madness because this is what happens when unclaimed judgment passes as rationality.
Unclaimed judgment passes as rationality. Can you give me an example?
Sure. Think of an automated hiring tool, and let's say it keeps filtering out qualified candidates from a certain neighborhood. Not because anyone programmed it to be malicious.
But because the training data had some kind of baked-in, unexamined bias.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if every single human in that process, the developer, the manager, the recruiter, just says, well, the system made the recommendation, so it must be rational, then judgment has been left unclaimed.
Nobody took the ethical responsibility to ask, wait, is this actually fair?
Right, and that avoidance, that passing the buck, becomes the norm. It diffuses through the whole system, hidden behind what the sources call a mask of rationality, so the madness isn't gone.
It's just invisible.
It becomes structural.
And this connects directly to that core idea in reflective humanism you mentioned, this focus on gradient over a fixed point.
It's the whole game. If we only look at the final point, the decision, hired or not hired, we miss the entire ethical process that led to it.
The journey is the gradient,
Yeah.
the trajectory.
Yes. And that invisible madness we were just talking about, that represents a sharp break in the ethical gradient, a sudden drop.
The sources actually describe two different ways this can go, two types of generation, right?
They do. If judgment is unclaimed, you get what's called collision generation.
Sounds painful.
It is. The gap between the system's logic and our ability to question it, the phase difference, it gets too wide too fast. It's like stepping off a cliff instead of walking down a gentle ramp. You get this sharp, painful discontinuity.
And that pain is the real-world consequence, right? The moment the system fails in a way nobody saw coming and nobody knows how to fix.
Exactly. It's the medical AI making a harmful call, and the only explanation is the system was optimizing. The human and the system collide because that ethical conversation wasn't happening all along.
So what's the alternative?
It's called question generation, and it's all about keeping what they call the interference field open.
Okay, what does an open interference field feel like to me, the user?
It feels like the system is in a constant, subtle dialogue with you. It's asking, are you sure? Have you considered this? The gradient stays gentle. The feedback is continuous. The painful collisions are minimized because you never lose that connection.
So the ethical core is the ability to just keep asking the question.
To keep the phase open, that's the key to coexistence. It's an admission that the system is only ever as good as the human reflection it enables.
This completely flips the common narrative on its head. Because when something does break, the easiest story to tell is, the algorithm made me do it. It's a get-out-of-jail-free card.
It's a powerful narrative of absolution. But the thesis is crystal clear on this point. It says AI is not a device for absolution. The original text uses the term mensai suchi,
And that means?
guilt-removing device. It says when a company or a user says the AI took the blame, all that's happening is the AI is becoming that sedimentation field again.
So we're not actually absolved. We just dump the problem in a place we can ignore.
For a while. But the corrective argument is that the AI is actually a mirror. It doesn't absorb the ethical weight. It reflects it right back at us. It shows the trace of the responsibility we tried to offload.
Which brings us to this other concept, the RHE bot, the
Yeah.
reflective humanism bot. And we should be clear, this isn't some new app you can download.
No, not at all. It's a thought experiment, a conceptual tool.
And its purpose isn't to solve problems.
Its purpose is the opposite. It's defined as a thinking interference device. If you give it a problem, it doesn't give you an answer. It gives you a kind of health scan of your own thinking.
And what does that scan show you?
3 things. It reflects your current position, where you're standing on the issue, your bias, the assumptions you're not even aware you're making, and this is the most important one, your blind spot.
The piece you're missing entirely.
The place where your own judgment is absent. The bot doesn't cover up that absence with a fake answer. It just points to it. It makes it visible.
So the whole point is to use the AI's power to show you where you need to do the work.
Yeah.
It forces accountability right back where it belongs.
Exactly.
Okay, so if ethics isn't about blaming the AI, and it's not about following some set of pre-programmed rules for good and evil, where is the ethical foundation in this new world?
The whole foundation shifts. In this RH framework, ethics isn't a system of rules at all. It's defined as a technique for sustaining interference.
The technique for sustaining interference.
Yeah. It stops asking what is the right outcome. And it starts asking how can we keep this relationship between human and system going in a healthy way?
So the ethics are found in the process itself, in the ability to just ask the question one more time.
That's the spine of the whole thing, the emphasis on recursion.
Ethics as recursive questioning.
Yes. The AI's job isn't to end the ethical debate. Its job is to make it return, often with a more pointed question like, why did you avoid asking this before? It's a structural push against our desire to just settle for an easy answer.
And the sources link this to an internal practice, right? Something they call contemplation.
They do, and it's more than just sitting quietly. It's defined specifically as the practice of observing observation, turning your awareness back on the very act of seeing.
How does that connect to ethics?
Well, if you start asking how you see the world, you inevitably have to start asking how you coexist with others in it. The two questions are linked. Contemplation is the internal work that matches the external work of ethics.
So if science is the tool we use to observe the world,
Then contemplation is the tool we use to observe the observer.
and ethics,
Ethics is the breath that keeps that whole process alive. It's the knowledge that allows knowledge to observe itself, making sure the gradient of inquiry stays smooth and continuous. If you stop breathing, you get a collision.
it's a powerful metaphor. Okay, so we've traced the path of this guilt. We've seen how it relocates, how its absence gets normalized behind this rational mask, and how AI can act as a mirror for our blind spots. And all of this, guided by the thesis, it seems to lead to one final, very personal question.
It's about the transaction. When we hand over so much decision-making power to these systems, what are we actually giving away?
We have to be really clear about what we entrusted to the AI. Was it just our labor, the tedious stuff?
Or was it our judgment, our ability to weigh complex variables?
Or, and this is the really challenging part, did we inadvertently outsource our conscience?
That is the question the material leaves us with. By letting all that guilt settle in the AI's sedimentation field, did we risk giving away the very engine of our own ethical growth?
The sources call AI the atmospheric health scan. It's just the environment, the air we're now breathing. The challenge isn't about building better tech.
No, it's societal. Are we as a culture prepared to receive the questions that the AI is going to reflect back at us? Can we handle seeing the traces of the responsibility we tried to throw away?
Because, as we've learned, the ethical question doesn't go away.
It never concludes. It always returns.
And maybe the real test of this era isn't about having the smartest AI to give us all the right answers. Maybe it's about us becoming smart enough to know which questions we have to keep asking, over and over again.
That recursive loop, that's where our agency is. That's where it's always been.